The main concerns of the Save Our Sydney Foundation and local residents were the way that the alternative was chosen, the lack of consideration of other alternatives, the problems that were going to be caused by the funneling of additional traffic through a bottleneck, the bottleneck of North Sydney, the fact that we'd be spending vast amounts of public money on a project that really didn't solve the problem.
Well, I think the proposal for the Sydney Harbour Tunnel was actually agreed politically some years before it was ever known publicly.
The EIS was a document that was put together to justify a decision that was already made.
I think that one of the ways of improving that system is to open up the whole decision-making process. That is, to allow greater public participation in transport planning and planning for Sydney at a much earlier stage. That it really isn't acceptable to the community anymore to be presented with a fait accompli and to be asked to make a submission.
There were a whole series of submissions received as part of the EIS. From memory, I think there was about 450 of them. Each one was reviewed to see exactly what the content was, and then every area in that was addressed.
There was no opportunity for people who objected to the tunnel to appeal. The government, in making its decision to proceed with the project, decided to bring forward legislation that tidied up any loose ends, one might say, and removed any rights of appeal.
In New South Wales, I guess there's a long history of bizarre legislation, but the Sydney Harbour Tunnel Act probably was the daddy of them all. It was introduced at about 1 a.m. in the morning, as I remember. It virtually wiped all other legislation in respect to the Sydney Harbour Tunnel and gave all power to the minister.
If one considers whether governments should or should not have the power to pass special legislation, well, of course they have, really. I mean, there's no doubt that government can pass any legislation it wants. I think, though, it circumvents the intention of the legislation, which was that not only should environmental considerations be weighed properly in development proposals, but that the public should be able to comment and review and indeed assess those development proposals.
The Liberal Party campaigned in this electorate on the basis that if Greiner was elected, he would stop work on the tunnel, hold a public inquiry and publicly review the contract. None of those things happened, with some fairly feeble justification.
What Labor has effectively done is to hog-tie us in such a way that both the government and the people have no option other than to continue with the tunnel.
The environmental impact statement process, as far as we were concerned with the Sydney Harbour Tunnel, was totally inadequate.
Well, I think it's accepted that the environmental impact statement process isn't working at the moment, that a lot of community groups are very concerned about the inadequacies in that system.
The environmental process is frustrating the economic development of this nation.
I don't think we should get carried away too much with whether the process is excellent or fine or whatever it is. I think we should try and look to the expediency of producing a very efficient process that doesn't hold up development.
Yes, we were reasonably happy with the EIS process. I mean, inescapably, it's pretty lengthy, it's time-consuming, and it consumes a lot of money. But I think in the case of a major project like this, that's inescapable.
The purpose of EIS is really a tool to help manage the environment, and as such, they're valuable insofar as they can make predictions and make recommendations as to how to evade any impacts which are predicted to be particularly damaging.
I don't know whether you want to comment on this. The environmental impact statement consultants refused to appear on this video. Do you care to comment on why that might have been?
No.